In this episode, we are joined by one of my personal favorite tattoo artists, Jack Goks, aka Goks is Dead online. Jack's style is very recognizable and in a league of its own. Listen to how he started tattooing and where he's planning to go with his career. Remember, if you like this kind of content and you want to see more, like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. The legend that is Jack Goks. Is that your real name though?
No.
What's your real name?
Jack Pierce. Well, no, my real name's Jackie.
Yo, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Goks was my graffiti name.
I was going to ask that.
Back when I was in school. And I came about that because I love Dragon Ball Z. So I tried writing Goku, and with the U on the end, it looked shit. So I changed it to an S. And it was like Goks. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then that was like really early internet days. I remember searching online for like Goks to see if anything would come up, and like there was nothing.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, sweet, cool. I've got something original there. Like, nice. And then I carried that through when I started tattooing. I used it as an artist's name, but then I changed. Well, I didn't change it. I set it up on my Instagram as Goks is Dead. And then that represents that I don't write graffiti no more. So it's like Goks is Dead.
Yeah,
so yeah, and it's just I've just kept it that way because I wanted it to be a memorable thing rather than just my name tattoo.
Yeah, sure.
So it was kind of like also as well said, and it wasn't my name. Yeah,
like the alias. Everyone has that. They get scared to go to the airport, travel. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
People get done for that real bad, man.
Yeah.
People come over, just been in the country, and they'll have a ridiculous name like, you know. I can't think. I'm not going to think of one on the top of my head right now. I'm too on the spot. But just get to the border, and then they're just like, "Yeah, we know you're going to tattoo." So off you go.
Yeah, fuck that.
Got
That's
a
terrifying.
14-hour flight. I know, that's so bad. So how long ago was it that you gave up writing graffiti then?
I mean, it
Or
wasn't
give
like
up,
I
or
was
it's
like
kind of a bad word, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I never got like crazy good at it. It was just tagging and shit like that around my local area. But I always did art at school, did graffiti for fun. Then when I went to university, got a degree in fine art. And from that,
fine art.
I knew straight away that I didn't want to be a fine artist because
Right.
I thought when I went to uni, I thought, oh, right, sweet. Like they're going to teach me like how to be an artist, like how to draw things and how to like be creative and how to do it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that because it was, as soon as you got there, it was like, welcome to fine art, crack on and we'll grade you in 6 months. And it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't even have anything I'm cracking on with. Like, and it was really terrifying and I had no fucking clue what I was doing. And I kind of just fumbled through it, got my degree at the end and was like, fuck, like, what the hell am I going to do? But luckily, halfway through, where we had to get work placement in an art field, I had no interest in tattooing. The only tattoo I'd ever really seen was my dad had like a tribal on his shoulder blades.
Shout out to Dad.
And it just never interested me. I didn't even like being like into like emo and rock music and stuff. I didn't even remember looking at their tattoos and thinking, oh yeah, tattoos are really cool. It just wasn't on my radar.
You haven't got a lot of tattoos even yourself, have you? Like, is that still the vibe now? Are you still kind of like...
I don't have a back. I've saved this sleeve.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of spaces left on my legs, maybe the top of my feet.
I've got a back free. It looks...
Yeah, I've never, not even interested in getting my back tattooed.
It's the whitest thing ever as well. I
See, my back will be the next thing that I do. And I know the artist, it's just going to cost so much fucking money.
Who is it?
So I want to do it with Brett Rosepyler, if that's how you say his name. He's out in Vegas.
It's a fun weekend, though.
Heritage Tattoo, I think they're called. And so that's like flights to Vegas.
Yeah. You
however many times out the year.
And you can only go to Vegas a handful of times.
And it's American. It's pricey. And then the flights and accommodation. So it's like, and now I'm older. It's like, I'm fucking terrified to start it.
Yeah.
So, and now I've got a third kid on the way. So it's like, all right, well, I don't need to spend that much money on the back piece right now. So it's going to get pushed back even further.
The good thing is the conversion rate for us, at least. But the I think the culture over there is so different. Like when I was just in LA, they're like, I mean, standard rate they were saying is like you can do $2,000, $3,000 a day. Like, you know, we had Russell, he mentions it on his podcast. So I'll say he charges two a day. But Americans love it. They will pay it. They're in that hustle money. I mean, listen to their music and all that. They're conditioned to get money every day, aren't they?
Yeah.
We're
They're raised to be winners, aren't they?
Yeah. We're quite conservative with our money over here. I would think anyway. But
I think they're kind of more used to paying a lot for like their luxury items as well.
Yeah.
I feel like everything seems a lot more expensive in America.
Yeah, status money as well, isn't it? You know, that kind of feeling of just like you can go to Vegas and then be like, I'm just going to do 20 grand on blackjack. I would never do that. You know,
If I had 20 grand in my pocket, then I probably would do that.
Yeah, I went to Vegas once for a stag do, and I was like, I'm going to spend $50 a day on gambling. And like, that's it. Like, because I don't fucking gamble. I don't know how to play the game. I just played roulette, 50 quid down, lost. Okay, next day, 50 quid down, lost. Okay, fuck it.
Like,
next
this is
day,
fun.
50 quid down, got my 100 back. I was like, okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
See you later.
I did exactly the same with Em. I was like, she was like, do you think we should do some gambling while we're here? And I was like, yeah, go on then. And I budgeted it, right? So we looked for like blackjack tables that were like quite low rates on them. So I was like, cool, at least we'll get a couple of hands in. And she was like, I don't know how to play any of this though. And I was like, well, I know how to play blackjack, so I'll go play that. And I was just like, put the money down, they'll give us the chips. And then she was like, flip the cards over, and I was like, and we've lost. So, and then she goes, oh, and they just take your money. I was like, yep. And then we did it 3 times, 3 hands. And she was like, this isn't fun at all. So let's go to a show or something like that. This is way better.
I'm really good at not gambling until I start gambling. Like last time we went to the casino in London, I just flat out refused. I wasn't gambling because even if it's like a fruit machine in the pub, I'll go in there and it's there, all the flashing lights. I'm like, I'm going to get 250 quid out of that easy.
Do you think that they program it to flash in a certain way so that when it hits you, it's like MK Ultra? And you like have to walk over
like Morse code.
Just stick a tenner in there. I didn't really want to do that at all, but for some reason, I'm going to put all my money in that little kids machine over there.
They've got like the ones you can feed notes into now as well. So I'll stick a 20 quid in there and I'll see where this gets me.
Yeah.
And then it just swallows 20 quid off you. You don't even get any nice flashy lights.
No. No dings.
And my brain's going, this one's going to pay out in a minute.
We used to do
another
spider
20 quid
spins after work. We got hooked on it. We'd finished the...
Like was it Double Dragon or something as well?
Double Dragon. That was dangerous. Double Dragon and Spider Spins. And we only picked it because we was like, Spider-Man. We love Spider-Man. So we would go finish work and we'd get our day's pay and we'd be like, we'll just do 100 in the machine, you know, and see. And sometimes, like say Josh, like he would put in sometimes and then just be like, you won 600 quid back. So then when that was happening, it was happening quite frequently. So we was like, we never lose at this, you know? and then we started to lose a lot. So it was such a weird time. Before we went out clubbing or something, we'd be like, just a couple of rounds of spider spins. We were doing everything that you shouldn't do with your life then. We was going out drinking, gambling, late nights, you know, wasting all your money. And hey, don't do that, kids. Don't do that.
But you got me off there with the gambling stuff, with the actual kind of art stuff when I went to university, had to get work placement.
What university was it?
University of Hertfordshire.
Okay.
In North London. And I actually applied for like Central St. Martin's and I never got they obviously say you didn't get in. I never even received a letter to say I didn't get in. So I guess it just kind of got lost, my entry, because they were my first and then Hertfordshire was my second.
It up then?
No, I just didn't care. It was whatever. And then so there's my second one, Hertfordshire, which was not far away from where I lived, was like, oh, well, that's perfect anyway because I want to go there. So I got into that. But we had to get work placement in an art field.
Yeah.
I had no interest in tattooing, didn't even look at it, wasn't interested in it. And a friend of mine who had a tattoo was like, oh, why don't you try the local tattoo shop? That might be quite cool. And I was like, oh, yeah, all right, then let's do that. So I went in there and was like, oh, yeah, can I work with you for free for 2 weeks? And so I see what the industry's like or whatever. And he was like, yeah, cool, sweet. Like, because you're thinking, yeah, I've got someone to like clean my studio for me.
Yeah, he's like, just 2 weeks?
Yeah. So I did that. And then within that 2 weeks, I was like, oh, yeah, this will be really fucking cool to do as a career. Like it's artistic. It's like actually focused on the visual side of art, because I always found what I didn't like about the fine art side of art was at uni, they weren't teaching us how to make art. They were basically teaching us how to brown nose and how to get noticed by people and how to kind of
work the industry.
Exactly, how to get into being a fine artist. And
Wow,
I found that
strange.
gross. I didn't like the idea of it's like you wasn't of importance until somebody of importance looked at you and was like, this is someone to look at. And everyone goes,
So it's kind of marketing.
Yeah, so I was like, I didn't like all of that. But then obviously tattooing was like, it actually is, the art is important. How well the art is created is important. So I was like, this will be really fun. And I started my apprenticeship straight away from that 2 weeks. So within the holidays of uni, I was in the studio starting it straight away.
Right.
And then I had obviously a year and a half left of uni. So I'd done that in the holidays. Then once I left uni, I went full time there. And I've literally been doing that ever since, which was now 14 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
Whatever it is.
Does it feel like it's blown past?
Yeah, like crazy.
Yeah,
I always used to think like, when I've been tattooing 10 years, I'm going to be like really good and I'll really know what I'm doing. And it's just like, oh shit, 10 years ago was however long ago. And it's like, God, I still feel like I'm climbing and still feel like there's so much I should better myself at. And
yeah, well, you're an amazing artist. I think we all have that. It's from the outside, isn't it? Because your work has always been very like, that scene, especially coming up, because we kind of come up at the same time.
Yeah,
I always remember your work. Yours was very distinctive. And I think it also shaped a lot of other people's styles, especially around that time.
No, thanks. Well, it's weird that because you don't see it yourself.
No.
But then I'll have people message me on Instagram who have been tattooing however many years, and they'll say like I was a direct influence in why they got into tattooing. And it's like, to hear that, it's like, oh God, that's crazy. Like,
you're like, I feel old.
I don't feel like I would even be worthy of that, and I don't think I am. But it's really nice, but it's also really shocking when you do hear that.
Yeah. I think it's important to feel that sometimes, especially when you're not like you're obviously not an ego-driven person at all. Like you can tell just by that first sentence, But it is nice because it's almost like it's your own pat on the back, isn't it? To be like, hey, this is all worth it,
Yeah, when you're having hard times and you feel like lost with like, oh God, I can't do this. I'm terrible at this. And then you get a message like that and it's nice as, okay, at least I'm doing something. At least there's something I'm getting right,
Yeah, your own enemy is your mind, isn't it? It's like the things every day. I actually saw a quote earlier. I think it was from Mark Twain. It was like, all the stuff I say, none of it coming to fruition, But I said that to my stuff daily, all the things that I dreaded and was like, this is going to be really bad. This is going to be bad in my life. This is going to be bad. It was like, it didn't even happen. So don't do that.
Yeah. I'm terrible. I self-doubt myself all the time and highly critical. Everything I do is not good enough, and I'll pick all of the flaws out of it, and it's so bad. It's so toxic to yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know how to stop doing it. It's so hard to not.
I think you're born with it if you're an artist. Yeah. Because you have to. You kind of have to.
Well, it gives you drive. Gives you drive to improve. But then it's like, what good is that if you're just depressed the whole fucking time?
Yeah.
Right?
You like, enjoy the journey kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that we came from that same era of tattooing where you had the
Instagram golden days.
Yeah, you had the old guard before, which was, like your Valerie Vargas's and all of these kind of like Eckel and all these legends in the industry that we were looking at their work like, oh my God, like this is so cool. And then we were that kind of younger modern age who were doing it like using the internet and having all these tools, not iPads yet, but having kind of modern things to kind of propel ourselves and whatnot. And then obviously now we're into TikTok being such an influence on tattooing is just crazy. Like
I don't use TikTok. I use Instagram, and it is basically TikTok these days.
Yeah,
Instagram.
I straight refuse to use TikTok. I don't want to go down that.
I don't want my kids on it either.
No,
I don't like that. The thing is, it's nice for some things where I guess it can highlight some things about the industry. Yes, maybe, but like I think it is sad to see people kind of fighting for what they want. But people would say this even about the podcast, be like, oh, you're kind of doing a new angle to to do something, but like we don't earn any money. We just do it for fun.
Yeah.
Like it's just part of the thing.
Well, and you're
But-
putting back into the culture as well, so it's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing for the podcast, we're getting off track, but the thing for the podcast was like, there's a lot of voices that need to be heard, like from especially the industry. And for myself being such a big fan of tattooing as well as a tattoo artist, it's nice to actually sit down. Like I've known you for years, but we haven't sat down and spoke like this.
No. Yeah.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, because my first ever guest spot was here at your shop. Well, not this shop, but
It's a new shop, yeah,
your older shop. And that was the first
My
ever
life
time
fell apart when you were there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that was. I remember at first it wasn't obvious, and then as the day went on, it was like,
my life's
oh,
falling
okay,
apart,
it's
bro,
really.
and I have to go.
It's
Oh,
really
no.
kicking off right now.
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah. That's when me and Scarlett's mum split up, and that all happened that weekend. It was that, yeah, it was over the
Yeah,
weekend,
that was the
wasn't
first time I came, and then I came a second time, probably the year after, or maybe 2 years
okay.
after, or something.
it? Yeah. Nice.
But it was before where you are now.
Yeah.
So it must, because I was chatting to Chris, that's 8 years you've had that place now. So it
Yeah.
would have been 10 years ago that I was around here.
That seems mad saying you've had that place for 8 years now. Because obviously I remember all your shops.
I know,
And
yeah.
like thinking about it as 8 years.
It's mad that means Chris will be coming up to his 10 year then,
Yeah.
soon. Where's that come from?
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Make me
Time's
feel
slipping
make
away.
me feel really old.
We're spending too
Would
much
Chris
time in
not been
there.
tattooing then when I was there?
He was it's hard to pinpoint him because I remember he started in the other shop and then it might have been a year or so.
Maybe it was
And
still
then we
really
went to the
early that
shop.
you was
Yeah, he
getting him
was-
doing apprentice stuff. He
he
was
was.
drawing. He wasn't. I don't remember him tattooing. while I
No,
was
yeah.
there.
Yeah. It was very, very early for him.
Mm.
So, but that means in like a year or so, he'll be 10 years. If the numbers are right, if it's 8 years. It's hard to kind of keep
Mm.
tracks on.
Yeah, no.
Well, I was
world
talking
now,
to
isn't
Chris
it?
the other day because next Wednesday, I've been in the shop a year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to do something. Next Wednesday,
And I was like, that year has gone so quickly.
you're going to have to do a hot wings chicken
Yeah,
challenge.
I was going to bring some cakes and party hats down. It was like,
Yeah.
it's my birthday.
Had to put up with me for a whole year. I saw that Joe did a one chip challenge.
Oh right,
You
yeah.
know that one that you could get on the
The
internet.
super hot, yeah.
They got rid of it because some kid died.
Oh,
Did you
fucking
see
hell.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some kid ate it and died.
I didn't even think it was that spicy.
Well, yeah. Apparently it is.
Yeah.
They had to take it off. So,
But then,
sorry.
yeah, because it was like a 15-year-old kid or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, imagine what that would do to your inside. You were in trouble. When you were reflecting on it, you were like, "Oh, that wasn't bad. I'll do it again." But I
The
remember that
actual
day.
spiciness of it wasn't as bad as I'd hyped it up to be in my head. I think that's why I took it so well.
Yeah,
But like the 2-3 days after, like the stomach cramps and just constantly feeling sick, that was bad. I felt like I'd ate a box of chemicals.
Jesus, yeah. I'd done one of those, like the make up a number, 10,000 Schofield
Oh, yeah.
vodka shock or whatever. And that was like horrible in the moment, but not days after. So
Oh,
that
man.
can't even be close to what that was like.
Yeah. There was one that we went to in London called Garlic and Shots.
Yeah.
It's a bar. Have you been to that? And they had something like that. It was a chili shot, didn't they?
Yeah. I'm sure that was like Carolina Reaper pepper.
Yeah, it just
shot.
ruined my mate. I did. I was like, I'm not touching that shit.
Yeah, no,
You know?
fuck that.
He threw up over everything there, and it was like a really small bar, so we was just there.
It was like I felt so because we were sober as well, and like they were battered.
Yeah, they were.
And like like when someone's getting a little bit too rowdy, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, we're out of our depths. We're out
Yeah.
in London, kind of like. So no TikTok.
Nah, no TikTok, just
Nah.
Instagram. No Facebook, none of that.
I wonder if there will ever be another app that will challenge how Instagram was for artists. I think it's still what people consume, though. I think people. I was saying this the other day because someone was talking to me. It was just in the comments section about what I post these days and stuff like that. And it was like, "Do you think it gets as much as attention as your other stuff?" And it's like, honestly, I don't think it has any reflection on the art. I would like to consider myself at my moment now. I enjoy tattooing the most now because I feel like I understand it a lot more now compared to even 5 years ago, you know? So even down to like my heels are coming back, that I'm like, you know, it was always one of those things where you have someone come back and you're like, you know, I hope it's healed well. And, you know, you kind of have that almost, you know, bad feeling about it, you know, coming back. And now they're coming back and I'm like, oh, this is like when I used to gawp over other people's heels, you know, that I'm like, oh, I'm getting those heels now.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm really enjoying it, you know. But yeah, I said to him, I think that we as artists have been posting tattoos and really like our clients give us the same type of tattoo for many years. I'm always doing bears. I'm always doing wolves. I'm always doing something that is quite repetitive, you know, with it. And I don't want to post them all the time because my page would just be wolves.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be neon leopards or something, you know, now because someone sees them and then they just gets booked up as snowballs. But as well for a consumer, like as in people like looking from the outside, they're probably, imagine how many tattoos when you go on Instagram, you just scroll. You're just scrolling and you're scrolling. They're actually good. I either had to make a point of it where I was going, fuck, I'm doing that thing again, or I'm just scrolling and I'll make sure I look and I like stuff and I do that. I don't want to be a part of the problem, you know? How many likes do you throw out a day to other people?
Oh, I'll look and like within seconds and I've moved on. I'm that, but I'm dishing out likes.
Yeah.
And then if it's someone I know, I'm like, save that, give them that, copy the link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do all the what Instagram says. I do that. All for you guys at the shop. I do the same thing.
Little like algorithm checklist.
Yeah. Save, comment, like.
Make sure I comment on everything. Yeah.
When I comment as well, I'm very unimaginative, but I want to leave them a comment or express that I really like it. I've got like 3 things I say. I just cycle through them. Like, so good. Stunning. So just that all the time. Like
I do that one.
Yeah. Now they've brought out that you can post GIFs as a comment. That's just me now.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Ooh.
Just leave that on everything.
That's my favorite one. People message me though. They go, "What does that mean?" And they're almost like it's
the Christian Bale.
Yeah.
The American Psycho. Like, yeah, so good.
I'll put the not the GIF because I can't do GIFs. Pen can, and it makes me jealous. But there's the face blowing out the smoke.
Yeah,
and he's doing that, and I put that with it as well. And people, I get a couple of messages. They're like, "Does this mean good?
Is this good or bad?"
Like, it means great. It doesn't just mean good. It means. But yeah, I wonder if there will ever be an app that would challenge it because I don't think it will ever go back to those days. They introduced a bit where you could have it back in chronological order again.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone clicks on it.
Yeah, I've never bothered to put that back on.
No.
It's like people complain that, oh, I wish it was back in the chronological, in the original order that when it's posted so you can see it. But the reality of that's the reason why they changed it is because that's not helpful because if you have to have been there at that moment to see it, otherwise it's just buried and lost.
Yeah.
So it's like now it makes sense. It's like I'll follow someone who I like and it knows I like them probably because I like a lot of their stuff. I comment and then like they don't post for like 3 months or whatever, but then they'll make a post and straight away that's the first thing Instagram feeds me. Yeah. It's like it's doing what it's supposed to. Like, that's what I want it to do that because I would have missed that if that was chronological.
You're right. Yeah.
And also if Instagram didn't algorithmically realize I like that person. It does work. It's just, it's a bit tricky that if you don't play the games and you don't get that first hour of intense interaction, that then it's like, well, this must be bad. So see you later kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I always worried when you're saying about not posting the same thing all the time is what I worried is if I was just posting this one thing of I was doing foxes or whatever all the time, my always worry was if I did one that wasn't up to scratch and maybe there was something a little bit off about it, and then those people that always like my stuff, they didn't like that one, then Instagram will then read that as, oh, you're losing interest in this person. I'll stop sending it to you.
Yeah.
So I always worried about posting boring and the same thing all the time because I dared to do a bad one and then their engagement drops and then Instagram stops feeding me to them.
Yeah.
So
and it's crazy that we even have to think about that.
Well, I you were saying how you do like very similar things quite a lot. I kind of wish I had that, but then at the same time, I'm glad I don't, because I've never had that thing that went viral. And that thing that people come to me for, I kind of, for the longest time, I've had a few voices of styles of way like someone comes to me with a certain idea, then in my category of like these 4 ways I do things, I go, okay, well, that way is better suited for that. And so I'll go that way with it. So I was always kind of doing a wider spread of stuff. And it's not like I was doing a tiger every day of the week, where the negative side of that is I wasn't able to constantly develop and get really good and hone in on how do I do tigers. So it would be a nightmare, because I'd do a tiger, I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, I think that works. I think that's good. Then I might not do another tiger again for like 6 months. And then it's not like I've done this 100 times. Yeah, this is how I do it. It's like, right, how the fuck do I do tigers? And it's like right back from the beginning, every single tattoo I do. Whereas I wish I had that thing. It's like, this is what I do, that I could really develop and really hone in and do well with that and get really good at doing that. Because I always feel like I was a little bit spread out in all directions and don't have that one thing that I'm really, really, really good at. So, but then the good side of it, I found, is actually I don't want to just do the same things all the time. Like, it's nice that I have 3 ways I do things, and I have infinite pool of things I can take on to a certain extent. Like, if it doesn't work with what I do, then I won't take it on. But it's always different. And every day I always kind of have to figure that out. It's like, how do I express that? And what's the best way to do that?
Which is the fun of it as well.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's fucking hard work.
Yeah.
It's so hard work to like sit down. It's like something that if it was something you do a lot, it's like, oh yeah, I can literally bang that together in a few hours. It's like there's me like 6 hours later, like, oh my God, like, fuck, I'm never doing this again. And it's like another one comes in 6 months, like, oh yeah, fucking remember why I said no to this last time. Fuck.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Do you have a kind of strict drawing time? Like, do you?
Oh, I wish I was that organized. I feel like I am quite rusty with drawing now that I've had children, that my drawing time has cut down quite a lot. Before having kids, my life was 2 things. It was drawing, tattooing, and playing video games. And it's all day drawing from the moment I woke up, like after breakfast or whatever, from like 10 till like 5 o'clock in the evening. I'm just drawing all day. And then it's like, cool, I'm not drawing no more. And it's like, turn the PlayStation on and play till like 3 in the morning and just rinse, repeat every day. Now having kids, I don't play video games at all anymore. I've just completely cut that out of my life entirely. And now it's all day family. When the kids go to bed, drawing. So I start my drawings now maybe 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and then I'll go to 12 or 2, depending if I really need the extra time. And I'll do that. So I only work 3 days a week.
Quite early, because we've spoke quite early in the morning.
5 o'clock, 6 o'clock if I get a lay-in.
Yeah.
Oh, 7, Christ, that's
you're
amazing.
Late at 7,
yeah, Jesus Christ.
Like teenage days.
We 7 o'clock a couple of days ago, and me and my wife woke up like, what time is it? Oh, I feel so rested. This is so good. But yeah, no, so I tattoo 3 days a week, which gives me 4 days a week to be ready. And ideally, so I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And ideally, I want to not do anything Sunday. And even not talking about family, just in general, as I don't want to fucking be thinking about work and drawing. So Sundays, I usually don't do anything unless I want to. And then, so it's like Monday, I kind of want to get the hardest and the biggest project started or done. So then that way I've got Monday to Wednesday to get the hardest thing done. And if it takes me all 3 days to do it, like late evening drawings to do it, then it's like, cool, I've got that done. Then I have the Thursday, Friday night to get the other ones done.
Yeah, sure.
So I try not to like take on like multiple big projects in a week. And sometimes that may accidentally happen where I wasn't too smart about my bookings. And I was like, fuck, I've got 2 sleeves to start this week. And it's just like, Jesus. So I'll just like shut myself away for a day and say, sorry, Nina, I need to get this fucking sleeve drawn now so I can then start the next one. So I do that. And then that way I've got a chilled actual working week, rather than, because the hard thing is like, you know, you get up, you go to work, maybe you need to finish design in the morning, or at least do the stencil, so you're getting a little bit earlier, then you tattoo all day, get home, eat dinner, chill with my wife for a bit of time, and then it's like, start drawing again. It's just like, it's just non-stop, and it's just so hard to have that every week. So I want to get my drawings done in the week off, then I can just like go to work, tattoo, go home, chill.
Yeah.
Be ready for the next day.
You don't have to talk about your pricing, but do you factor that into the pricing strategy? Because that's a lot. You're taking, it's a lot of prep, isn't it?
So I may spend, for a palm size tattoo, which I don't do a lot of, I usually do, you know.
Yeah, you're always posting.
It's usually, you know, top of an arm, full forearm sized, or like hip to knee fights, or full sleeve. So I usually do like, I would say like that is a medium tattoo. And then like, you know, hip to knee is like large, and then like obviously sleeves and stuff and bodysuits is beyond that. So I don't really do a lot of small tattoos, like palm size or whatever. So like if I were to draw a palm size tattoo, I could spend anywhere from 2 to 5 hours to draw that, and then maybe it only takes me 2 to 3 hours to tattoo it. So more often than not, it takes me longer to draw it than to tattoo it. But if I'm drawing for top of an arm, I could spend anywhere from 5 to 10 hours, maybe even more. But that's not, it's not like I'm really good because I'm spending all that time. It's like, no, actually, it's a reflection of how not good of an artist I am, that I'm not able to draw it faster. And I wish that I were more honed in on my skills, and not kind of spending a lot of that time really kind of meeting dead ends, or hating what I've done, and like fighting over the composition for so long. Like when I draw, the first kind of 2/3 of the tattoo drawing process is like torture, and it's really hard work. But then the last third, where it's like that, it's there, I just need to draw that neatly, do the values, then have a color study by the morning. That's when I'm actually enjoying it.
I know what you mean. The color plan is always my favorite bit. It's like getting everything kind of planned out and in place, and then the colors, especially like when I tried to change from doing like my neo traditional work to doing this kind of neon stuff in it, playing with light sources. That's when it got fun for me, of like kind of changing that, instead of like sometimes when you get kind of restricted by certain clients. I don't know if you get this, where that someone might be like, I want this to be blue, but then this to be yellow, and then this to be this, and you're like, those colors don't really go.
Yeah, I'm learning now more as I'm getting better with color, how to handle that, to actually pull that off. So it, rather than using the true colors, red, blue, whatever, you know, okay, right, well, you know, they want red and then this color. Well, then that, I know those colors don't necessarily go together, but I know I can pull that color into another color, make it a halfway mark between the two. And then you're getting, say it doesn't go, but yellow goes better. I'm bringing that color into a yellow, and and you can make a cohesive palette with those still elements. And I only within the past few years of really understanding that, and realizing how to do it.
Palette,
but now I'm happier with my palette now because I've stripped it right back, and I'm really not like you have to have these colors, you don't have a choice, but I realize now I excel better when I work with just these colors. And I like it more because I like the look of it. Whereas before this stage, maybe 5 years previous, I was using all the colors. In my mind, like coming from graffiti and stuff like that, it was like, make it vibrant, all the colors, make it the most like not shocking, but like really intensive looking tattoo. And then as years go by and I'm looking back on my old work, and it's like, oh my God, that's harsh to look at. Like there's just too much saturation. There's too many colors. There's no cohesive palette there. It's just everything. And I hated it. So now where I have like this certain palette that I always use, I'm like, oh, okay, I love my work. And now my work, it is recognizable into itself. It's like, oh yeah, cool, because I recognize those colors, so that must be his kind of thing.
Exactly. It brings a style into it from a pattern,
exactly. The palette is its style in itself as well. And then that way it's easier to color things. Whereas before it was like, Christ, that's red. This has got to be that color. How the hell am I going to make that
Yeah.
work? Now I know it's like, well, I'm going to do it these colors, and I know they go nice next to each other or whatever. And it's much easier.
And you know as well, like what colors are going to heal better. You've got that kind of control.
I'm very locked into the brand of inks that I use, but then a little bit of others outside of that. But using a certain brand of ink I always use, I know they're good. And I know which ones of those don't heal good, so I don't use them.
Yeah.
So I've been using that brand for 10 plus years now, so I've got quite familiar with which ones heal. And like typically people would be like, oh, you know, yellow's the first to go and it's going to show its age or completely come out of the skin, whereas this brand's yellow is undeniably the best yellow on the market. And I've seen that yellow on someone for it's like 8+ year old tattoo, and it looks like it went in day one. And it gives me confidence because I use a lot of fucking yellow in my tattoos now. And I know some people might be a bit like, well, that's gonna just heal like shit. And it's like, well, no, I know. I've seen that that color 8 years old, as saturated and as solid and as yellow as the day it went in.
It's crazy because even Jess's arm, the top of her arm, she had really bright yellow flowers, and they're all one of them around the back is just skin now. It's like it's been lasered.
Yeah. Well, it's with that brand, they've got the 2 yellows, and the golden yellow, I guess it's that warmth in it that holds well. And then their other yellow, which is more of a brighter canary yellow, that just goes. I've used that for big roses on someone's arm, and then, you know, you see them like a year later and it's like it's completely gone. So it's like I've then gone back over it with the same color in hopes that a second layer will hold. And I have seen good results in that, where I did see that person then again some years later, and it was like, oh yes, it's there now and it's stayed. Yeah. So it's like maybe I kind of could have put it in better the first time, or maybe it's just the nature of having a second layer has helped. But then you never know, 10 years from now it's probably going to fall out again, whereas the golden yellow holds. And I've seen it held for years.
That's nice. Can we rewind a bit and talk about your apprenticeship? Because we touched on it obviously when the mics were off and stuff, and we were kind of talking about people getting apprenticeships, and then there maybe being like that kind of divide of, obviously it's who you get taught by, isn't it? You know, be all and end all. But what about your apprenticeship? I mean, you don't have to name any names, you don't have to do anything like that, but you can just talk, because I mean, Joe would like to hear.
I wish I got taught by someone who was really good. Fucking hell, I probably wouldn't have done such shit tattoos for like 5 years. But no, so coming out of uni, going to that tattoo studio, which was like a small like street shop. Yeah, so North London in High Barnet. It was a street shop in the back of a barber's. So it was at the time it was a 1-chair little studio, one artist working there, and that's where I started. And then when I started tattooing, they made it a bit bigger, so it was a 2-person studio. So then I had a station. But the way that went was, to begin with, my apprenticeship was doing all the cleaning and everything, which was absolutely fine because I was learning hygiene and everything. So I absolutely to be expected and was totally worth the time and really important. So I'm glad that it went that way. Then the rest of the time, what I would be doing is the studio was like there was a little corridor to then the actual tattoo space, and then in the corridor was a upright drawing table. So that's where I would sit and I would be drawing, and then if a potential client would come in, they meet me first, and then I would liaise with the client about, oh, what do you want to get, and then sort out that design, like booking for the tattoo eye. So I basically did not his bookings, but his consults with people. Right. Okay. So I was doing that while he was then getting me to draw for his appointments. Okay. So he was not the best tattoo artist in the world at the time.
So it's like, I'm just going to get you to draw everything.
Yeah. So for him, it was nice because I was doing his homework for him. So I was at that time drawing David Beckham sleeves. That's what I was doing, puffy clouds, doves and cupids and all of that sort of stuff, cherubs. And so I was sitting there drawing that sort of stuff for him. And I didn't know anything about tattooing. So that was tattooing to me. That's what it was. I didn't know. There was a couple of old school rips out of magazines framed up on the wall, but nothing to really inspire me to realize there was anything more to it than that. Yeah. So that's all I thought tattooing was. And I was drawing all of that at first, while then also working on my own stuff, which at that time was the earliest kind of tattooing I saw that actually like sparked my interest. Was I went to uni with someone who then also went into tattooing. So we both started tattooing roughly the same time. He absolutely exploded and became a really like prolific kind of artist in the industry. That was Philip Yarnell of Skin Yard in Southend. And so we went to uni together. He was already like really interested in tattooing and got tattooed a lot at Skin Yard, and they knew about him. And I believe that the setup was, when you finish uni, we'll take you on as an apprentice. He was doing.
So it was Bert that taught.
Exactly, yeah, Bert Thomas. So he was started his apprenticeship as soon as he left uni. So did I. So my only, outside of David Beckham sleeves, look at tattooing was what he was doing. Yeah. So he was doing, you know, very heavy black, super dark, traditional tattooing. So that's all I knew outside of that. So I was also kind of doing something like that, but I also really like color coming from graffiti. So I was mixing the two with really heavy black traditional, but also trying to do like really colorful kind of traditional stuff.
Yeah.
This was also the really early days of Instagram wasn't a thing yet. So Miami Ink hadn't really popped off yet as well. So I was able to get into tattooing really easy. I literally walked in on the street. Can I work for you for free for 2 weeks? Yeah, of course you can. Can I have apprenticeship? Yeah, of course you can. So I was like straight in the door. I probably didn't even have any kind of a portfolio that was in any way remotely angled towards tattooing. It was just what I was doing at university at the time.
What was that? What were you doing? I don't want to keep throwing you off track.
I didn't have, like I said, had no direction. So I was I wasn't doing anything graffiti based in. It was
project.
It was just influenced from kind of artists that I found and liked, and was trying to replicate kind of what they were doing. Like, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like seeing what I liked, trying to replicate that with what I could understand and my tool set of what I had at my disposal. So I was just bouncing through things like that. So I had no real any direction in any style.
So if you got that portfolio now, you wouldn't see any kind of tattooing relation.
No. I mean, I was using, Poshka paint pens and drawing on found bits of wood, like kind of like flat hieroglyphic-esque flat images of abstract, but not, I don't know. It's
bring it back into the style.
No, this wouldn't work at all. But no, so yeah, I had nothing, no actual art direction. So even like I say, I got into it without having a really good, strong portfolio that showed I had any understanding of tattooing at all. So for him, I was free work, which was great. His way of
like university student, he's doing art.
My
drawings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was, so I got in really easy. Miami Ink hadn't really exploded yet, so tattooing wasn't really in the mainstream yet. Instagram wasn't a thing yet, so having a really early entry into Instagram was good, because I was just by accident putting work on there, not really realizing kind of where it was going in terms of where Instagram went. I mean, we was just like, to begin with, Instagram was, we thought it was like a photo filter app. That's all I was using it for. Just taking a picture of something and sticking a filter on it. It's like, oh, that looks nice. Post that to Facebook or whatever.
Pro on it.
Exactly. So like,
more red.
I didn't even realize it was like a social media platform. But then once I realized that, and it was like, oh, okay, artists are putting work on there. Like, oh, okay, cool. So I was posting my artwork on there as I was learning the trade of tattooing. Not through actual tattooing, just being in the studio, dealing with his clients, drawing his appointments for him. So I was putting my work up on there and building a following on there from the really early days. So it was obviously a lot easier back then. So I was able to develop a following. And then when it actually came to tattooing, my education of tattooing was, I think I had one evening where two of my friends came down. I was like, okay, you're going to do a tattoo on them.
How long was that in the apprenticeship phase?
Oh, within months.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It was like, pretty early. It's not like I don't remember how long exactly, but it wasn't years. It would have been within the first year for sure. So a couple of friends come in the evening. very basic. I think I'd done a Mr. Bump on my May, and then I'd done like a target, like a gun target. So it was circles, crosshair, red in the middle kind of thing. So it's like, he was like, yeah, good, because you can practice straight lines and circles. Like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that
cheers.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So that was on his ass. So I'd done those 2 tattoos, and
that was the butt tattoo.
Yeah. So his way of
Classy.
teaching me was, I already kind of had an idea how to set up the machines and everything from watching him and him showing me, but I never had any formal education about how the machine works, why you run it at any speed. Like literally none of that. It was just that you put the needle
Do you think
there.
he knew that?
No, probably not.
No. Okay.
You put the needle on, put the elastic band around that, hold it down from rattling, crack on. So, and I distinctly remember as well. So I tattooed Mr. Bump, which is a blue Mr. Man with white bandages around him.
Yeah.
So I done the blue, and then I set up the white, and I was like, oh, do I need to get a different needle to now do the white? And he was like, no, you just crack straight on. So I just dipped straight in the white, and of course, there's a gradient of blue into white for the rest of the tattoo. And it's like he didn't even explain to me to rinse the needle or nothing. So yes, it was a really not very educated person trying to teach me. And beyond that first day of showing me how to tattoo, from then on, if I were doing a tattoo, he would probably stand for 5 minutes and then go drink coffee outside of the tattoo space and just leave me alone. And then at the end, either destroy me for how bad the tattoo came out or not really say anything at all. So that is as far as my tattooing education ever went.
So really you taught yourself?
I 100% taught myself. So from just figuring it out, trial and error, and just slowly getting it wrong and changing things ever so slightly, not even having somebody else, like I said, my friend Phil, I wasn't in communication with him after uni, apart from when Instagram picked up, and then I was really following his work on Instagram as well as Facebook, and then getting tattooed by him a lot. I was later in it getting a bit better information secondhand through him. But
you could see the world was a bit more wider then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So having nothing, I was just fumbling through it. But having the Instagram to begin with, work was slowly coming to me, and I didn't have that kind of tattoo apprenticeship where it's like, right, okay, cool, you're doing, small walk-ins, you're doing tribals, and really learning how to do these kind of skills that then are really beneficial later in your career.
Yeah.
I never tattooed a tribal tattoo in my entire career. And I mean, outside of, script, little butterflies, that kind of thing.
I should do a flash sheet.
I don't really have that kind of behind me. I never did it. I was literally drawing my tattoos, and then if somebody found me on the internet and came and booked in a tattoo with me and would travel down or to me to get tattooed, I was doing them. So I was doing, 1 or 2 tattoos a week at the most, and then maybe nothing, and maybe
was
in
it
a month.
Busy, consistent then? Would people come through the barber shop and be like, "There's a tattooer in there," or
so
what was the
clientele of the area was mostly the local council estate. So all of those people that wanted the David Beckham sleeves, he was providing that for them.
Okay,
because it would have been,
and you're kind of left to your
It
own
was the
devices.
only tattoo studio in the area, apart from obviously you move on to the next town and then they've got one, and it was it's not free on every high street like it is today. So we just had all of the local council estate coming to us for the David Beckham sleeves. So I was too nervous to do the tribals on them because if it was anything smaller than a 9-round liner, I was too scared to use it because I couldn't. The bigger the needle was easier for me to tattoo with. So I would be too scared and had no support. So if that kind of tattoo was required of me, I would be like, I can't do it, to my boss, and then he would do it. So I was only really doing my clients. So it was slow, a really slow build. I mean, I don't think I was doing anything good for the first 2 or 3 years. I don't think I even really got to a point where, looking back now at that, could say, yeah, okay, it's not the best style and it's not the best executed, but at least you know what you're doing, and I'm not scarring them. That wasn't until the 4 or 5 year mark, so it was the slowest progression you could probably achieve in tattooing.
Sure, yeah.
So having an actual really educated teacher teaching you, it would have been so nice, you know, to got out of that terrible
5 years, it
stage.
would have just went.
Yeah, you could have got to that point in 6 months really quickly.
That's the thing with apprenticeships these days. It's like people rave and go, "Yep, get an apprenticeship is the best thing to do," and obviously is, you know. But then it totally depends who's teaching you as well.
Yeah,
You just got some
100%.
old mate who's got a shop who's teaching you. Is it an apprenticeship or is it just the under the banner of an apprenticeship? Isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's like I like that I did it in a shop and I didn't do it in my kitchen. Oh, actually, saying that, his formal kind of, all right, you're ready to do tattoos now, was he bought all of the stuff to begin with. Actually, no, he didn't. Anyway, whatever. So I had to buy all the shit, and he's like, gave me the list of the things to buy. He's like, here you go, this is everything you need. I was like, right, okay, cool. It all came. I was like, sweet, I got everything now, I can start tattooing. He's like, yeah, sweet, okay, cool. So start tattooing at home. And then when you get good enough, you can do it in the shop. His actual kind of like to start tattooing was, yeah, go do that in your kitchen, you know.
Yeah.
And then when you get it to a good standard, then you can do it in the shop.
Yeah.
So I actually, it must have been a couple of months that I was doing it literally on my bed, putting a towel down.
Oh, you did do it?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was, because I thought that's what I had
that's
to,
what it
right?
is. Yeah.
So I was literally on my bed, put a towel down. There are limbs on the towel. I'm tattooing that. I mean, it was such a fuffle. I remember like having a client come and everything, and she's been like, "Oh yeah, I've got no gloves." It's like, or I had no kitchen roll or something. So I literally had to call the client and be like, "Can you pop over to the co-op and pick up some kitchen roll and bring it with you because I don't have any."
Yeah.
So it's like,
for a while.
so it was like, oh, it's so
How
shady.
much blood is there going to be?
Yeah. So I was doing that, and that was like to begin with, like when you're good enough doing a shop. And I'd done that a handful of times. I wasn't doing that long, and I wasn't doing a lot of tattoos like that because, like I said, I wasn't stacked with work to begin with.
Yeah.
So after 2 or 3 times of doing that, I was like, yeah, this is not good. I'm not going to learn like this. This is terrible,
Yeah.
So I said to him, like, no, I'm doing it, and I need to do it in the shop. And he didn't want to, but I forced him to basically
That's such a strange
let
thing
me do it in the shop.
You've got to do tattoos in the tattoo shop.
Yeah, literally. So I forced him to let me start doing it in the shop, and then it was better. I had everything I needed.
It's like the other way around. Instead of like forcing people to not do it at home, it's like, you got? Okay, I guess you could do it in the shop. Jeez. Yeah, I've never heard that way round, but you hear everything every day, and that's the thing. Is like, should that guy be teaching people? But turns out you're a great artist.
Yeah, well, I guess I had to force myself to
Yeah.
get to that point. Otherwise, it wasn't going to work.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I was young as well. So I was fresh out of uni. When I went to uni, I lived at home with my parents. When I started my tattoo apprenticeship, I still lived at home. I had no worry of money. If I was doing 1 tattoo a week or more or less than that, I didn't need money. I was just sitting at home playing PlayStation, or was drawing or tattooing. That was my life, So
how old were you then?
So I must have been. When did you go uni? 18?
Yes.
Well, when did you leave secondary school?
Dummy.
When you leave secondary school, I done 6th form for 2 years, and then straight into my degree. I didn't do like a foundation degree. So I
was 18. Yeah.
So 18. So then I would have been 21 when I finished. So from 21. And
and it's good because you're at that age where lucky enough to have a support network when you're saying with your family and stuff like that. Because it's like different now because you're apprenticing.
Yeah.
2 kids, house, mortgage, and you're starting that start bit where for us, like when we was younger, you can be like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter if even if I did like a couple of tattoos in a month, like I'm not going to be out on my ass because of it because I live at home, you know. So it's all right, but
yeah, it's really different for me where I'm like, I need to hustle, I need to do this, I need to be tattooing every day because I've got 2 kids, I've got my missus. They all need feeding, watering. Keep a roof over their head.
Does that add more pressure to it?
It adds more pressure, but then like I try and turn that into more drive. I can't come into this with the attitude that I have nothing to lose. I have everything to lose.
Yeah, sure.
Like with a mortgage and stuff. I've absolutely everything to lose, so I need to make this work.
Yeah.
And it does make me like push harder.
Yeah.
And like going back to like you saying, like, I'm really lucky to be where I am learning from you, but with that comes like there's such a high bar in that shop, and it goes back to again like how everyone's so self-critical. I'm really self-critical because I'm just looking at like your work, I'm looking at Josh's work and Jess and like Claire.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And it's such a high bar that I'm comparing myself to. I'm like, I'm fucking getting nowhere. But then I've always got you guys gassing me up and being like, no, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah.
And I kind of have to
We just say
remind
that.
myself. Yeah, well, I kind of have to remind myself to like take what you say over what my brain is saying to me.
Yeah.
Where my brain is constantly going, you can't do this. You're fucking terrible at this.
What advice would you give to Joe from that kind of stance, from that apprenticeship? Because it's kind of flipped round now, because you did the apprenticeship when you was younger and you're all right then, but you've got family. You said you got a third one on the way now. So now you're in the deep end with the family stuff now, and you've had to make that balance. How could you get that 5-year mark and be like,
Well, it's being around you guys that's going to really help that, isn't it? It's like when I was tattooing by myself with someone who wasn't doing the greatest work. So I had no inspiration. All I had was what I was seeing my friend Phil doing as like, okay, that's where I need to get to. But then
so
when
he
I
would help you out, you bounce off each other?
No. I mean, I just looked at his work on Instant.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I was in communication with him in terms of like, oh, wow, that looks great. But not like a Phil, can you help me with this? How do I do that? I never reached out to him in that way.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I only had what I see him do as a foundation of, okay, I need to get to there. So like I was set the what do you call it? The benchmark was like the lines have to be clean, because his lines were perfect, absolutely flawless. The whip shading was perfect. Everything was just absolutely on point, and that's all I knew about tattooing. So if I wasn't achieving that, it was a bad tattoo. So I really forced myself to get to that point, and like I had to have clean lines, and I had to have clean shading, and if I wasn't, it was a complete failure. So doing that all by myself was so slow. So it took me so long. But it wasn't until after, God, maybe it was in that, 5th year onwards was when I finally moved out of that studio and then worked in a better studio with really good artists, that then my work actually excelled and grew much rapid and much faster, because I was actually surrounded by really good people and seeing how they were doing things, asking questions, and then realizing how to do that better myself. So my work didn't get anywhere good until I was surrounded by other artists.
Was that Cloak and Dagger?
So that was Cloak and Dagger. So I was somewhere in between that as well. So the first studio for maybe 4 to 5 years, I have no idea of the timeline, but something like that.
Yeah.
Then some 3 years into that, then I got reached out to by an artist in a neighboring town in Potter's Bar, who found my work on Instagram, was like, it's really cool, like, you should come to the studio and hang out. And that was my mate Will Thompson, and that was Ink Lounge in Palmer's Green. So I was like, had never had anyone in the industry reach out to me, had no speaking with any other tattooers. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, this is cool. I want to go over there. So I was really nervous, and I went over there, and they were really cool. They were super nice, the owner, Justin and Will. So we started hanging out in terms of, I started to do 1 day a week at the shop. Yeah. So I was doing the rest of the days of the week in my normal shop in Barnet, then going 1 day a week to them. Yeah. And I did that for, like I say, maybe a year or two, till then getting the job at Cloak. So the way that came about was I saw them post on the internet, because I think I already followed Hugh Sheldon and Luke Jinks, who work there, but they weren't working there yet.
It was coming back and forth.
Well, so he was like Birmingham way. I can't remember exactly where Luke's from, but I think it's like Birmingham way. And then Hugh was, I know he was in Cheltenham.
Yeah.
So I must have already knew their work, and I probably found them through Will, because I think Will was friends with Hugh. And where was I going? What was I saying? So anyway, so I was following their work, and then Cloak and Dagger posted, this was before they were opened or about to open, that they were opening and that they were looking for artists. And I saw that and I was like, oh, cool. Like Hugh Sheldon and Luke Jinks work at this shop. Like, that would be so fucking cool if I can work at that shop. So, but in my head, I was like, I'm probably not good enough. Like, but if you don't try, you don't get. So I was like, well, I'll send that email. So I remember sitting down and writing an email to the owner and saying,
Was that Ben?
Exactly. That would have been Ben. So I was like, I really want this. I really care about this. I really work hard towards this. I'm not wasting this career. I don't fuck up and party hard and don't, come into work with a hangover and stuff like that. I care about doing a really good job of what I do. And I would love to work in the studio if you'll have me. And I remember his email back was like, he was like, yeah, sounds, your work ethic sounds really good. A lot of the artists that do work here, we're all kind of like young tattooers. Most people have only been tattooing a few years anyway, so you'll fit right in. Like, come down for a chat and we'll see where it goes. And I remember going down, it must have been around December time. And I met the studio, and he was like, cool, yeah, you've got the job if you want it. You can start like immediately if you wanted to. And I was like, oh, wow, great. Like, I have some bookings already in January, so I will need to obviously finish them. And then can I start as soon as that's done? He's like, yeah, sweet. So I literally, done one more month at the studio where I had like X amount of bookings left over.
Yeah.
And
was there an awkward transition with that?
No, it was sad to say, because I became really good friends with the barbers. They were really cool. So it was sad to like say goodbye to them, but they were like the owner, John, I wouldn't be where I am right now if it weren't for him. Like I say, I had like a bad apprenticeship and stuff in terms of learning to tattoo, but in terms of the environment I was in and the opportunity I was given, I put that down to him. I know the artist said yes to me, but beyond that point, John, the barber who owned the studio, he was always there supporting me and encouraging me. And if I needed to, like I had to buy all of the gear myself and I had no money, he bought it for me. And then he was like, just pay me back afterwards. So he like gave me like 500 quid and I got the full setup, a couple of Mickey Sharps machines. So like, let's do this. And so absolutely, I love John. I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for him. Having
was it the T-dial?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Liner and a shader.
Classic.
Yeah, absolutely. From that February, I started full time. So I said goodbye to the barbers, like, thanks, for everything. Said goodbye to the artists that worked there. I was like, cheers, like, thanks for giving me this opportunity and stuff. Like, cool, I'm gonna go. It wasn't like didn't want to leave to like let anybody down or anything. I was like, no, I'm moving on. Like, this is great. Like, I'm gonna go on to bigger and better things. Like, I want this,
That's when Goks was born.
Yeah. Well, it's like, because it all coincided so perfectly with when I started tattooing and was learning to tattoo, the rise of Instagram. I was able to pull work from that, and I was able to kind of get clients literally through that. Then Miami Ink became a thing on TV, and then tattooing became into the mainstream. And as tattooing exploded, as Instagram exploded, I was riding that wave all the way up.
Nice.
So what would you say now, like bringing that forward to today? Like, because I see a lot of people online, they're really struggling to get work. Do you think there's a financial crisis, obviously, and like tattooing has been hit by that. Do you feel that in any way, or do you think that
in terms of have my bookings dropped?
Well, not. I just think about how the industry in general, because obviously we work with other people as well, and you see other artists because you've.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy at the moment. It does look really scary. You see, our generation of tattooers, like you say, posting online, got space, deals left, right, and center, and it's oh fuck, like like these young kids, not even like the young kids who are doing tattooing well and are doing it good. Like, ruining that for us. Like, no, that's great. Like that they exist. It's,
Yeah.
I guess it's like a oversaturation of so many people tattooing, so many people able to get the equipment, watch TikTok videos to learn how to tattoo, and they're generating interest on their channels and developing massive followings, but they're not really good and they're not actually tattooing good stuff. But the style of interest, people like these, you know, naive, if you want to be kind to what you want to call it, like it's just the terrible stuff, you know, it's like really poorly done. And it's like, that's really trendy now. So a lot of them are riding that wave. And so I feel, as an assumption, I have no idea how things work, but as a guess, I would say that maybe like all of the younger crowd of people who are now getting old enough, now have jobs and have money and want to get tattooed, the trend is that.
Yeah.
So they're following that and they're getting that style of tattooing.
Because it's everywhere.
Yeah,
That's what they
exactly.
see.
And they're not necessarily looking at these, you know, these traditional tattoo artists as like, because maybe they're thinking that's old man tattoos, you know, like, so maybe those people might be struggling because the potential new wave of work coming in has shifted and is going a different direction.
Of the consumer as well.
I've noticed with my work, my clientele, which might correlate to why I haven't had bad months and I haven't had like, oh my God, I've got no bookings. Obviously once I got better at tattooing and my diary was filling up, that's never stopped since then. So I'm probably on 10 plus years now of tattooing every day I intended to tattoo every day, minus a last minute cancellation, or do you know what I mean? Something's unavoidable.
Yeah.
I've never had to have a tough month and worry what that's like. But as I've aged myself and as my style has aged as well, like, you know, in our early days of tattooing, I was doing, you know, very vibrant, very young graffiti kind of girls with backwards caps, that kind of imagery, which definitely appeals to a younger crowd. Where my art style has matured now, and I see a more timeless approach to the imagery and the colors and stuff like that, I feel like my clientele has aged with me as well. So I'm not tattooing fresh out of uni, you know, under 25 aged people barely anymore. My clientele are 25 to 35 or maybe a little bit older than that.
People
my
with
age,
stable lives, though,
people with families, people with a job and a stable career they've probably been doing for 10, 15 years and their money is okay and they're financially in a good position that they can afford to spend what it costs to get a tattoo once a month. Yeah. So, but that clientele are who are booking in with me. So the stability has maintained with their stability for me. So I haven't, at this point now, I don't want to fucking jinx it, but I haven't seen like I haven't had a big drop off, but you know, I'm also seeing.
I think it comes with the talent and it comes with the motivation and all that stuff. It shines through.
I'm seeing a slowed down because when I was at Cloak, they were doing my bookings, they were doing my emails. So I never had to do any of that. I never had to worry about that. My interaction with my work was an email comes in, the front of house, read it, go over it, break it down into a bite-sized kind of key points, then they would present that to me and be like, this person wants this, they want it there, and da-da-da. And I would then say, cool, yeah, I can do that. Or instead of that, this would be better, this size, this price. They would then go back, tell them that. Then they go, yeah, cool, I want to do it. And then that's now in the diary. Then I'm not thinking about that until I open my diary on the Monday. What do I have booked in this week or a couple of weeks ahead or whatever? Okay, cool, this, and this. And I sit down, I draw it, and then I tattoo it on them. Whereas now I'm dealing with all of it myself. So I'm doing the emails, I'm quoting people, and I'm making my own bookings. So now I actually have an insight into how often emails come in because it was not my world before. I had no idea whether I was getting 10 emails a week or 100 emails a month or whatever. I had no idea what actually was flowing in. I just had a consistent diary and a waiting list. So that was all cool. Whereas now I'm seeing, okay, cool. This is how they're coming in. Oh, if I'm not posting on Instagram, oh, I'm not getting emails coming in.
Right,
And so I'm seeing that now. And also with the age of my clientele, now I'm noticing, oh, okay, summer is actually a slower period for inquiries because
Holidays
they're having holidays and they're taking their kids places and their family time.
Clientele's changed.
So I'm seeing, oh, okay, that makes sense why I'm not being swamped with emails over this summer period, you know. Whereas before, you would imagine summer, everybody sees tattoos. I want to get a tattoo, and then they're inquiring to get tattooed, and then you would typically expect the winter periods to be more quiet, but it would just be the tattooed clientele would really understand the industry. Know, oh, I'm gonna get my tattoo in the winter so I can heal it, and I can be out in the summer with it, rather than when it's hot, I can't actually be outside. So yeah, I have seen that. But yeah, who knows? It's just as time tells. If I keep neglecting to post on Instagram as I so successfully do, I will have no fucking work.
Well, I guess this is a good point. So then, if we wrap it up with what does the future hold for Goks is Dead? What you got planned? Because you've just moved shop.
Oh yeah, so I'd done a massive
move from London as well.
Yeah, did a massive life change in career change, not career change, but like something that could drastically affect your career, which is a really scary thing to do. Having worked, and I've lived in London my whole life, so I worked in London in a very successful tattoo studio for 10 years. That what I was pulling in on my Instagram, what the shop was pulling in for its kind of fame, was bringing the work for me. So I never had to worry about work. And it's a case of, like if I'm doing this myself and I'm not in London anymore, is that work going to be there? So it was, I didn't trial it. It wasn't a case of, okay, let me, try it and go, well, I don't know, do it on a small scale. It was a case of, no, we bought the house, we moved.
And what was the reason for the move? To have the kids out of
kids,
London?
Yeah. I didn't want to raise the kids in London. Wanted to have them have nature on their doorstep. So going to the beach every morning, that sort of thing is really important. So we didn't want to do it in London. We was like, okay, no, we're going to do it. And it was, if tattooing wasn't going to work for me, then I was do something else. I wouldn't have been like, no, well, we can't, we got to go back. No, if tattooing dried up for me, I wouldn't move them back into the city. I would figure something else out. So having that fear of, oh my God, when I open my diary, is anyone going to book? So I had about a month buffer from leaving Cloak and living there. So I'd moved, I still had a month in the diary of bookings that I needed to finish. So I was going back to finish that. So just before that, I announced, okay, cool, I'm opening my books luckily it was the first time in a long time, because I had a backlog of a couple year long waiting list and whatnot. So it was nice that I could actually finally, for the first time in a few years, actually say, my books are open. Send your emails now. And I remember making that post and just being too scared to open my emails. And I was just like, no, I'm not looking at that. And I left it. I was going, I'll leave it for a week and then I'll check. And then I was still too scared to look after a week. So I left it for 2 weeks. And then my wife was like, you got to fucking look, because if there's nothing there, we need to figure something out. I was like, oh, fucking hell, okay, I got to look. And I looked and I skimmed and I was like, okay, cool. I think there's a lot of information there. I think there's, I don't know how many people have sent 2 emails, but I think there's like 30 plus emails. I think we might be okay. And then when I actually went through it, done all the bookings, got everybody booked in, it was about 7 months of work. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, thank fuck for that. So I booked the 7 months, and then I was like, okay, well, I'll close my diary now, and then I'll just do that again in 3 months' time. And that's the way it's going to work from now. So I was like, yeah, cool, sweet. So I left it. And then normally before at Cloak, I would just do 3 months of bookings. 1 month before the end of that, I would open my books and do 3 months of bookings. So when I say open my books, it wasn't like an Instagram announcement. It was, they would just contact the waiting list, book their million, and just do that every 2 months. Every 3 months, you know what I mean? So anyway, I was like, oh yeah, well, I'll just do that same formula. And then, halfway through that 7 months, my wife was like, yeah, don't wait just in case it's crap again. You do it earlier. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's probably a good idea. So I after about 3 months in, I opened them again. And then that second wave was less, which was to be expected because that first wave, people had probably been waiting a year or two to get in. So that was that first excited rush. And then now it's a case of how much interest have I attracted over this past 3 months kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, nice.
So then that was less, but still finished my year. So I was like, okay,
nice.
cool. That's the first year booked. We're good. No problem. So now I've decided rather than do the closed books and open books situation, which I never really thought of it in a negative way. I always thought, well, this is good because, you know, you give a time that people can book in and then they can send their emails and you do it all in a nice little package and it's done.
Yeah.
And then you would have all your bio books closed. And then it wasn't until I heard someone else's client explain how crap that looks to a potential client, which I never thought about. And the way they said it was like, yeah, because like you see this artist that you really like, and then it just says books closed. And it's like, right, well, so what? I'm just going to watch your Instagram for a year and hope I'll catch when you open it again. Like there's no indication of that could be 10 years. Like why would I sit there saving this place and you never open your books because you don't have to?
Yeah.
So having them say like, yeah, I wish they just said opening my books 2023 or whatever is some indication of how long that wait might be.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, yeah, that makes sense. I was like, okay, well, rather than just have books closed, I'll maybe have books closed for now and then a date when I expect them to open, which I did for that second wave. I said, like, I'm going to open my books in July or whatever.
Yeah.
So then I realized, oh, do you know what? I'm too scared. I'm too worried to do that. Then no one emails.
Yeah, sure.
So I was like, fuck it, books open. I'll just book as things come, and then I'll just try my best to be strategic and not just do what I'd previously done in the past, which was just constantly book and then go a whole year without booking a holiday and realizing your friend, you know, has a wedding coming up and you have to cancel on a client and then to push them back like a whole year is just so unfair. So it's like having that 3 months at a time booking system worked well because it was a case of, well, I know I only have to worry about this 3 months. The rest of the world, like to my life, is I can still do things. I can actually be for something and book that time off.
Stuff you need that.
So having that formula was really beneficial and I really liked it. But now with the current climate tattooing, the worry that the work's not going to be there, I don't think I'm that open my books, swamp of email come in, close my books kind of artist anymore. I'm just going to now, my books are open. I'm just booking what comes in and trying my best to be a little bit strategic about, you know, don't just cram every fucking day of the month and actually like maybe have a week off periodically every now and then. And then, you know, if I've got a week booked off, at least I know like we could last minute do something or actually plan to do something in that time that I've booked off.
You enjoy your spoils of tattooing as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing, isn't it? But what's your final words? What is the future for? Oh,
so, I mean, my interest in tattooing, where I want to go from here is my main focus is just I want to keep getting better at my craft in terms of the design, the style, and then the application. And that's always been my drive and still always will be, but doing it on a scale that's I'm doing, because I've found the nicest and most comfortable way I work and manage my bookings and have enough bookings is I don't want to do 2 medium-sized tattoos every day I work.
Yeah.
So many bookings you need to do that. What I want is I want large projects. I want tattoos that take 1 to 2 or 3 sessions to finish. I want, you know, full sleeve projects, backs, these bodysuits, these kind of projects. So that way to fill a year of work, you need like 10 people.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're doing, you know, palm size 2 or 3 a day, you need like 50 people or whatever the math is on that to fill a year of work. So I know that my interest lies in big body work. My interest in what I like to see in tattooing is less the subject itself. It's how that subject has been kind of portrayed on the body and how it flows with the body and how they've kind of linked 2 elements together of a sleeve. I'm way more interested in looking at that in between joining part of a
Yeah,
tattoo
sure.
than the image itself.
Yeah.
I love the structure of a sleeve, and I love seeing how these artists that I look up to achieve these things and studying that myself and analyzing and like, oh fucking hell, yeah, because when they do this with the arm, it flows, it looks nice, and rather than doing it's a lady head and you get the whole kind of chest and hair and everything, it's like just fucking the face, just this big, just looks so much more striking and is so much more interesting and just ages better and all things like that. It's the longevity of the tattoo, it's how it flows on the body and the scaling, and that sort of side is what really interests me, and that's where I want to push my work. And
Do you think you'll open your own place?
that will be the goal. Before I moved to Margate, the plan was to open a studio straight away, not like a street shop studio, like a walk-in studio. Probably would have been a private place.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to take the risk of not knowing if I even had the work, and then also having the stress and the worry of maintaining that. So I was like, no, I'll do the beginning stages. I'll work at a studio with friends and stuff and get my feet wet, feel how things go. And then eventually when I can dedicate, when I'm not so focused on like my family life and just getting my drawings done for work, I can actually look at other things and actually, look at running a business and stuff like that. So my end goal is definitely to open a big space, maybe not necessarily like a walk-in space, but a big space that has maybe like 5 or 6 artists. And I'd love it if they were all really, really well-established, big-name neo-traditional artists. Not necessarily doing the similar thing, but working in a similar way and doing large-scale work so that we can bounce off each other and then provide that style of tattooing for that kind of Lower East Side of the UK and Kent. I don't know how many their neo-traditional artists are even in that area. So providing that as like a place to go to for large scale neo-traditional would be
Neo-traditional Mecca.
Yeah, exactly. Take it away from Berlin. And,
I'd love to see how you would design a shop as well.
So that's a weird thing. I wouldn't even know. I'd probably have such bad taste. I'd probably get my wife to design it.
Oh yeah,
yeah. She's got great taste. She's made our house look so lovely. Like I'd make our place probably look so childish.
Just full of Lego.
Yeah, it's literally just so horrible. And I'd probably after a year be like, fucking hell, what the hell have I done here?
Yeah, just you could do all the partitions just Lego.
Yeah,
that would be quite cool. Just glue it to the floor. Get to build it. Be fun.
I fucking love Lego. Lego's great.
Well, it's been great having you on, man. Having a chat with you and figuring out all this stuff.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do some more stuff in the future. And anyone you want to kind of shout out or
shout out to Cloak and Dagger, all the artists that work there. They're great people. It's a great studio. Shout out to where I'm working now, Sunshine Tattoo in Ramsgate. Nice. All the guys working there, super nice. We're trying our best to make a really, really nice, high quality, good tattoo studio in that part of the UK and offer, something a bit more than just, your small walking kind of studios and stuff, like some nice stuff.
Putting out some really nice work there. I was looking the other day when we were chatting the other morning, our 5 a.m. chats.
Yeah.
Going to do some more of them. And I guess we better get ready to do a seminar now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone's watching this, there'll be the seminar that will come out of Jack's body compositions. That's the main focus, isn't it?
Its approach on my approach on neo-traditional design and like body flow theory sort of thing, and how I kind of do what I look at and what I pay attention to when building these tattoos. Usually kind of medium to large scale. Like I say, don't do loads of small stuff. So that's the focus of it.
Yeah, sweet. Well, thanks again. And thank you guys for tuning in, and see you next time.